Fantasy fanfiction. Myth resurrection. I can plan the future in advance. Chapter 41. Dead Beast. The name is a beast, but it is a strange product born from death energy, murderous intent, hatred, and the legendary illusory soul, as well as countless negative magnetic fields that have been catalyzed by countless negative magnetic fields in the dead land of dimensional fragments for millions of years. A weird product that only belongs to dimensional fragments. Moreover, these products only have killing and devouring in their eyes, attacking any creature that enters the dimensional world. While the crowd was exclaiming, a ghostly and terrifying figure appeared again in the darkness on the other side, sneaking up on the crowd on the edge. Ah! A scream. Lu Xuan, a boy wearing glasses, disappeared into the darkness in an instant, leaving only the remaining people shouting in terror. Everyone come closer. The squad leader shouted loudly, and everyone rolled and crawled as much as possible to gather in the middle. The bodyguards beside Song Yi, Jing Miaoyi and others also approached their respective bosses in an orderly manner, holding knives or guns in their hands, and scanning the fog in all directions with vigilant eyes. Just as Song Yi was observing his surroundings attentively, a strange black shadow suddenly flashed across the dim fog. A bodyguard next to Song Yi did not hesitate and shot instantly. Boom! The bullet penetrated through, and the ghostly figure rushed towards Song Yi and others in horror. The bodyguard directly took out a sharp blade with his backhand. But the sharp blade cuts through the air again. A ferocious and twisted face of a terrifying beast suddenly rushed towards Song Yi. Song Yi's eyes were shocked, but the next second, the light that appeared on Song Yi's wrist before suddenly burst into a dazzling golden light. Golden light enveloped Song Yi and the people around him, and there was a faint sound of Buddha singing in the air. Break! The attacking horror beast let out a piercing scream, and its figure almost collapsed, instantly retreating into the darkness. Black shadows swam in the darkness, but did not attack again. Song Yi looked at the ghost that hurriedly retreated, with a happy look on his face, and he played with the bracelet on his wrist in surprise. Gun. Treasure. Song Yi can actually fight off monsters. Everyone around them saw what had just happened, and a glimmer of hope appeared in the eyes of the people who were already frightened. The crowd exclaimed and moved towards Song Yi, Jing Miaoyi and others. People are not stupid. The mysterious light on Song Yi's body can repel monsters. Jing Miaoyi and another beautiful woman also have mysterious light on their bodies, so they should be able to repel monsters as well. As everyone gathered around the three people, the monsters that kept attacking around them finally stopped appearing, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. But in the dim fog around them, ghostly black shadows could still be seen faintly flashing from time to time. Although these monsters did not attack again, they closely surrounded and peered at them. It's definitely not going to work like this. Zhang Haobo said at this time. We need to find our way back as soon as possible. There's no signal on the phone, we have to find someone else. There are more and more monsters around, we must get out of here as soon as possible. Everyone spoke out one after another. The dark and lifeless fog around them rolled in from time to time, and countless monsters seemed to be peeping at them in the darkness, making everyone feel numb. Everyone wants to leave this hellish place as soon as possible. But only Pei Jun knows that there is no way for the dimensional fragments to leave voluntarily. Only when the time is up, the dimensional fragments will automatically disintegrate. Let's move forward. Song Yi looked around at this moment and said lightly. At this time, everyone relied on Song Yi and others for protection. Seeing that Jing Miaoyi and the others were silent, everyone responded to Song Yi one after another. The crowd moved toward the deathly air ahead. Pei Jun followed Jing Miaoyi and others, observing the dimension fragments filled with death. In his previous life, Mr. Pei heard a rumor that a world-shattering war had broken out in the mythical dimension, leading to the complete demise of the entire mythological dimension. At this time, looking at the deathly silence and coldness in the dimension fragments, as well as the black sand and deathly energy that filled the world, Pei Jun couldn't help but think of this rumor. This place does seem to have experienced a war. However, I don't know who are the two sides in the war, and what will be the final outcome. In his previous life, he had no chance to come into contact with the secrets of these high-level officials. If there is a chance in this life, Pei Jun would like to explore it. He always feels that behind this lies the secret of the millennium of godlessness on earth and the resurrection of mythology. A shocking secret. There was a deathly atmosphere all around, and there were no landmarks. Everyone could only move forward based on their feelings. They didn't know how long they had walked. Someone suddenly said with a trembling voice, "Do you feel that there are more and more prying eyes around you?" The speaker was a classmate who was on the edge. As he walked longer, he felt more and more people peeping in the mist around him, and the more chill he felt around him. Felt it. Someone swallowed and said, "We must find a way out as soon as possible." Squad leader Zhang Haobo gritted his teeth and said that he also noticed something strange. The temperature around his body was gradually decreasing, and the peeps around him became more and more intensive. Makes your scalp numb. The pace of everyone's feet could not help but speed up a lot, and they continued to explore forward. And just as everyone was exploring a way out, many surprising changes took place in the outside world. It was already light outside at this time. Last night, not to mention Kunlun and other famous mountains, more or less changes occurred in the Tianmu Mountains in Hangzhou and the Sheshandu Mountains in the Demon City. At this time, countless people gathered under the Tianma Hotel in Shishan Resort. Everyone looked up at the hotel with shocked expressions, and saw that the rooftop on the top floor of the hotel seemed to be swallowed up by something inexplicably. Completely disappeared. There was a middle-aged man in the crowd with a majestic figure and a face that resembled Song Yi. At this time, he said in a cold and angry voice, "How can people disappear out of thin air?" The expert team speculates that Mr. Song and the others may have entered the vision that night. Keep sending people to look for it. The Jing family's people are already on the way. If we don't have any clues yet, how do you want me to explain? Advertisement. And you're. The middle-aged man looked sad and angry. You want to see people when you are alive, you want to see corpses when you die. Try to find. At the same time, the Heaven and Earth Hotel in Hangzhou. Shen Ruo crossed her legs wrapped in black stockings and was looking solemnly at the news from last night in her hand. I saw the message on my hand showing. Jazzy, boss, the person has been found and we are ready to return. But half an hour later. Jazzy, there was an earthquake in Yunling City, and we were temporarily trapped. Jazzy, Yunling City suddenly experienced widespread chaos, and we are trying to find a way to leave. Jazzy, there are frequent animal attacks in Yunling City, and the whole city is in chaos. Jazzy, the team was attacked by an unknown person and 2 brothers were killed and injured. I will find a way to bring them back. Jazzy, Yunling City is in danger. The last sentence. Jazzy, don't come in. Don't come in. Don't come in. Seeing the message Jazzy sent back, Shen Ruo's eyes showed deep worry. She sent a message to Jazzy today, but there was no reply. The entire team disappeared into Yunling. Shen Ruo held the phone tightly, frowning and thinking for a long time, and finally stood up with a determined look. She's going for a trip. After more than 10 years of searching, hope was right in front of her, and she would not give up just because of this little danger. If she doesn't go, she will never feel at ease in her life. Shen Ruo immediately prepared a team to set off for Yunling City. Before leaving, Shen Ruo bit her lip with a confused expression. After hesitating for a moment, she sent a message to Pei Jun. I'm going to Yunling. Among the dimensional fragments, the lifeless mist was rolling, and countless ghostly black shadows were wandering and peeping in the mist. The crowd looked around with extremely frightened expressions. Because just now, the ghostly black shadows all around attacked again. A terrifying and intensive crazy attack. Countless ferocious and strange monsters rushed out of the lifeless fog crazily, howling crazily and rushing towards the crowd. The mysterious light on Song Yi, Jing Miaoyi and others once again showed its power, repelling many attacking monsters. If that were the case, everyone wouldn't be so panicked. But everyone discovered that as the monster attacked again, the light on Song Yi and others dimmed a lot. And someone just got caught by a monster again and dragged into the mist. Although the monster has now retreated into death again, people don't know when the monster's next attack will come again. Can the treasures in the hands of Song Yi and others still withstand the next attack? Song Yi also frowned at this time. With the treasure in hand, he felt a lot more at ease. But as the monster's attacks became more and more fierce, Song Yi discovered that every time a monster was defeated, the mysterious light on the bracelet would dim a little. If this continues, he will be consumed by monsters to death. What the hell is this place? Hemi on the side also frowned and whispered. Have no idea. Jing Miaoyi shook her head. She had never heard of such a strange place, and the ancient books at home had never recorded it. Seeing the monsters around him attacking more and more fiercely, and seeing people dying in the crowd around him, Pei Jun still followed the crowd with a cold expression. No intention of taking action at all. Since this group of people could finally survive in the previous life, they must have discovered something or gained something. And this is Pei Jun's goal. As for how many people died, it didn't make any waves in his heart. When the team is once again attacked by strange monsters, the crowd shrunk to a few people again, and the light of the bracelet in Song Yi's hand dimmed a lot again. Someone in the team suddenly shouted, "There's light ahead." Everyone, whose expressions were already in despair, now widened their eyes and looked at the light in front of them with pleading expressions. In the lifeless fog ahead, there was a mysterious light rising into the sky. Even though it was still far away, it still fell into everyone's eyes. Ghostly monsters peeped and wandered in the mist all around. Let's go. Everyone quickly quickened their pace. When they encountered another round of crazy attacks from monsters, no one said anything at this time. They all rushed forward quickly with desperate expressions. The mysterious light rising into the sky is right in front of you. Look, what is this? Someone saw clearly the mysterious light rising into the sky. Their steps suddenly stopped, and they exclaimed in shock. The team stopped one after another and looked ahead with shocked expressions. At this time, when Zhongguang was approaching, everyone finally saw the source of Zhongguang clearly. The mysterious light rising into the sky actually emerged from a terrifying weapon that was stuck in the bloody earth and looked like a square-shaped halberd, soaring straight into the sky. Moreover, everyone in the team discovered that not only was Fang Tian's painted halberd glowing with light at the scene, but there were also several mysterious lights emerging from the mist on the blood-colored land shrouded in mist. It's just that compared to Fang Tian's painted halberd, their light is slightly dim, and they can't penetrate the death energy at all. The moment they saw Fang Tian's painted halberd and other bright lights on the ground, everyone's eyes lit up. They immediately thought of the treasure bracelet on Song Yi's hand, which also glowed with light. It should obviously be something similar, and they were all treasures that could resist monsters. Moreover, this Fang Tian painted halberd. Everyone is not a fool. Seeing the shocking light coming from Fang Tian's painted halberd, everyone has already understood. This is the most powerful treasure. Song Yi looked at Fang Tian Huaji in front of him with the same surprised expression at this time, revealing a touch of undisguised greed in his eyes. And at this time, everyone was surprised to find that the strange monsters that had been wandering and peeking around them, ready to attack at any time, were actually far away from this place. Hidden in the mist in the distance, no longer in front. A flash of hope and greed flashed in everyone's eyes. Song Yi directly scanned the surrounding crowd and said, "This Fangtian painted halberd belongs to me." With that said, he left everyone around him and walked forward quickly with several bodyguards behind him. A touch of coldness appeared in the eyes of Jing Miaoyi and Hemi. However, they did not step forward to fight for it. The dangers around them were still there, and they knew that it was not the time for internal strife yet. Seeing Song Yi move, the rest of the team looked at each other with different expressions, and then ran towards the target they had already set. Pei Jun was hidden among the crowd. The moment he saw Fang Tian drawing his halberd, he knew that this was the target he was looking for. The top treasure from the previous life, Fang Tian's painted halberd. In his previous life, Song Yi relied on this treasure to rank among the top 100 in China, and even surpassed his rank to kill a disaster-level monster. Build a great reputation. Then just when Pei Jun was about to take action directly to capture the target, a strange and terrifying beating sound suddenly came from his consciousness. Plop, pop. The beating sound was like the beating of a heart, striking in Pei Jun's consciousness and mind. Pei Jun's eyes narrowed. Following the crowd, Pei Jun hurriedly took a few steps forward, and then he saw in the unfolding consciousness, in the death aura farther away from Fang Tian's painted halberd, there was a huge arm that cut across the earth. Hiss! Pei Jun gasped instantly. The huge arm cut across the death air in the distance is as towering as a hill, and there is a scalp-numbing pressure on the arm. The owner of this arm was definitely a top powerhouse with extremely terrifying strength in his previous life, maybe even a mythical powerhouse. But the arm was already dead, without any life left. Divine corpse. Pei Jun instantly thought of a rumor from his previous life. It is said that in the mythical dimension, there are still many things left behind by the shocking war, including the corpse of the god that has not been consumed by time. Very rare. This is a treasure that countless overlord organizations in previous lives have fought for. Because every divine corpse will have many enviable good things, such as inheritance, treasures, skills. Even the corpse itself has endless benefits. In his previous life, Mr. Pei heard that there was a powerful man in the Eagle Kingdom who was one of the top 100 in the world. It was because he encountered the divine corpse in the dimension fragments that he received a shocking inheritance. Then from an unknown person, he became one of the top 100 people in the world in just a few years, ranking at the top. After hearing about it in his previous life, Pei Jun also longed for the divine corpse. But he had never had the opportunity to enter the dimension fragments in his previous life, let alone encounter this very rare divine corpse. I can only look at the ocean and sigh. Did not expect. This time, I unexpectedly encountered a divine corpse. The shock brought by the divine corpse suddenly stirred up Pei Jun's calm mood. Pei Jun took a few deep breaths to feel the excitement, and while the crowd was looking for nearby treasures, he entered the mist directly and hurried towards the divine corpse. The divine corpse is definitely the optimal target. As for Fang Tian's painted halberd, let Song Yi keep it for him for a while. Even before Mr. Pei got close to the corpse, he already felt strong pressure. Just now, he was still wondering why all the dead beasts around him were afraid of this place and did not dare to approach it. He thought it was the shock brought by Fang Tian's painted halberd. Now Mr. Pei understands that it must be the terrifying shock brought by the divine corpse in front of him that makes the dead beasts around him only dare to peek around. And dare not move forward. This also made Pei Jun excited again. A severed arm can suppress an entire place. What kind of terrifying power did the owner of this arm have in his previous life? The closer he got to his arms, the greater the pressure he felt on his body, as if he was walking forward with a boulder weighing hundreds of kilograms. And the weight of the boulders continues to increase. Pei Jun's muscles and bones all over his body roared violently, he was sweating profusely, the spiritual energy in his body was running wildly, and the indestructible power of the Vajra was working under his skin. Pei Jun's entire body was covered in golden lines, and all the muscles in his body were curled up and bulged. The pressure coming from above his head became stronger and stronger, but the light in Pei Jun's eyes soared. The stronger the pressure, the more abundant the things brought by the divine corpse are. The premise is that he can get it. Ah! Pei Jun shouted loudly, and the Vajra Dharma image behind him suddenly appeared. At this time, he was less than 10 meters away from the divine corpse, but the pressure coming from above his head seemed to make Mr. Pei carry a mountain forward. At this time, the Vajra Dharma is more than 3 meters high, with 6 arms holding the sky. Pei Jun is moving forward step by step. Boom! At this time, every step Pei Jun takes will leave a deep footprint on the bloody and hardened ground. So close. Pei Jun was sweating profusely, and there were even drops of blood on his skin with golden lines, and the capillaries under his skin burst. At this time, Pei Jun finally saw clearly the source of the beating heart in his consciousness, as well as the source of the terrifying pressure of the divine corpse. A drop of blood, like a ruby, exudes world-shattering pressure. The moment he saw the blood, Pei Jun even felt that the blood in his body was stagnant, and an extremely strong desire suddenly came from his mind. Take it, soak it up. This drop of blood is definitely a shocking treasure. And it will definitely help you a lot. Pei Jun felt the crazy and strong desire in his mind, and the light in his eyes swelled, regardless of the fact that the skin around him was torn apart inch by the huge pressure. Gritting his teeth, he climbed up the corpse step by step. At this time, Pei Jun's whole body was dripping with blood, and no piece of skin around him was intact. It was all torn and collapsed, and the blood flow continued. And Pei Jun even felt that there was a serious problem with his internal organs. The bones and muscles all over the body are also showing signs of imminent collapse. Pei Jun's facial features were bleeding. Finally, when his body was about to completely collapse, he pounced directly on the blood droplets suspended above the corpse. The mud and fat jade purification bottle instantly activated and directly collected the blood drops into the bottle. Several cracks appeared in the jade bottle that was originally as crystal clear as jade. Fortunately, the visualization of the setting sun hanging drum, the 3 pure bells and the 5 dragon wheels in the bottle were floating at the same time, and the pressure from the blood drops was barely suppressed. And violent. The mud and fat jade purification bottle was finally saved from collapse. Pei Jun glanced at the mud and fat jade bottle with distress, and finally breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. As the blood drops were taken away, the huge corpse arm under Pei Jun also let out a faint roar, as if it had completed its mission of thousands of years, and instantly dissipated into the lifeless dimension. Pei Jun stumbled and fell down. As the divine blood was taken away and the divine corpse dissipated, the terrifying pressure all around also completely dissipated, and the dead silence beast hidden in the mist in the distance seemed to sense something. They all roared and wandered away, gradually wandering towards this place for temptation. Song Yi in the distance had already picked up Fang Tian's painted halberd that was stuck on the ground. Fang Tian's painted halberd was so heavy that Song Yi couldn't pick it up at all. But for some reason, after Song Yi tried for a while, Fang Tian's painted halberd suddenly became a normal weight and he picked it up. Jing Miaoyi and Si Hemi have several bodyguards under their command, and they are all good at using force and have gained something. There were also a few students who were lucky enough to obtain a damaged or dim treasure. Something else happened during the process. The group of people who began to surround Song Yi, such as Sun Hao, had just discovered a treasure at the same time. In order to snatch the treasure, several people who had just returned the brother before and after the brother suddenly started fighting. The beating resulted in a bruised nose and swollen face. The last treasure was snatched by Sun Hao. Sun Hao's mouth was still bloody at this time, because he just bit off a friend's ear in order to snatch the treasure in his hand. Everyone present looked horrified. The worldview they have experienced over the years still cannot allow them to accept the scene just now calmly. If Pei Jun saw the scene in front of him, his eyes would not change at all, and there would even be a sneer on the corner of his mouth. Betray. Brothers kill each other. This is the main theme after the revival of Shinhua. It is also a compulsory course that everyone must learn. In his previous life, Mr. Pei suffered countless betrayals, and even paid a heavy price for it. This also made his heart feel colder. This is just the beginning. Sun Hao didn't care at all that everyone was looking at him with gradually horrified eyes. At this time, he lowered his head and looked greedily at the treasure in his hand. With the treasure, he has hope of living. As soon as he finished his thoughts, Sun Hao heard a sudden exclamation from someone beside him. As soon as Sun Hao raised his head, he saw that the calm death aura beside him suddenly stirred and rolled, and a ghostly and terrifying figure suddenly rushed out of the death aura. Sun Hao was so frightened that he sat on the ground. Break. At the critical moment, the treasure in Sun Hao's hand suddenly shone with light, blocking the monster's attack. Sun Hao breathed a sigh of relief. But before he could breathe a sigh of relief, countless terrifying monsters once again rushed out of the mist from all directions, rushing towards Sun Hao one after another. The treasure's light gradually weakened until it dimmed. Ah! With a final scream of pain, Sun Hao was dragged into the lifeless black mist by countless monsters. Everyone only heard a harsh chewing sound coming from the mist. The attack just happened just for a moment, and no one could react at all. Why were monsters suddenly swarming in a place where there was no danger before? Monitor Zhang Haobo shouted, "Hurry and gather together." An iron rod with dark red lines in his hand exuded a faint luster, protecting several classmates. The other students also raised the treasures in their hands to protect the surrounding students and resist the impact of the surrounding monsters. But everyone gradually discovered that more and more monsters were attacking, and only one or two treasures could not resist the attacks of the monsters. As the monster retreated into the fog again, everyone quickly gathered towards Song Yi. The Fang Tian painted halberd in Song Yi's hand should be the strongest thing present, and it was indeed emitting a strong light at this time, powerfully resisting the monsters swarming around him. On the other side, Jing Miaoyi and Si Hemi, who didn't like Song Yi, gathered together and managed to protect them and their men with the 6 or 7 treasures in their hands. When Pei Jun came out of the death aura, he saw the two teams that had just gathered around him. At this time, the two teams also saw Pei Jun walking out of the mist. At this time, Pei Jun was covered in blood, and his ferocious facial features were stained with freshly dried blood, which made everyone's eyelids jump. No one had time to think about why Pei Jun walked out of the mist. The monsters wandering in the mist from all directions began to approach again. The next attack is coming. Someone from the team protecting Song Yi shouted. Junpei, come here quickly. Song Yi looked at the embarrassed Pei Jun with a sneer. Hearing the shouts from behind, he turned around and said to the team behind him with a cold voice. If he comes, get out. Everyone in the team behind them turned red, but no one dared to say anything. On their own terms, they cannot resist the monsters around them. If they go out, they will definitely die. Faced with the choice of life and death, everyone chose themselves. Song Yi looked at the embarrassed Pei Jun in front of him with a ferocious smile, and raised the corners of his mouth. If he had to say who he wanted to die the most, it was naturally Mr. Pei. What a waste, how dare you steal his woman? Junpei, come here. A cold voice came from the side, but it was Jing Miaoyi who spoke. It's just that the situation on Jing Miaoyi's side is not good. It is already difficult to protect the people under her, and the light of the spiritual treasure around her has been dimmed. If there is another Pei Jun. Si Hemi frowned and pulled Jing Miaoyi. Jing Miaoyi frowned at Pei Jun, but she saw Pei Jun chuckle, shake his head, and walk slowly towards Song Yi. A hint of astonishment appeared in Jing Miaoyi's warm eyes. Everyone at the scene had a hint of surprise in their eyes when they saw Pei Jun's actions. After all, everyone knew that Song Yi wanted Pei Jun to die from the beginning to the end. No one thought that Pei Jun would actually walk towards Song Yi. What is this going to do? Song Yi's face turned cold when he heard Jing Miaoyi's voice. This woman even asked her to come over, but she still wanted to protect Pei Jun. Sure enough, they are a couple. Just as he was angry, Song Yi saw Pei Jun shaking his head and walking straight towards him. Ah! The coldness on Song Yi's face instantly turned into a ferocious smile, and he chuckled teasingly. Then he looked at Pei Jun coldly and said sarcastically. You want me to protect you? Can? Everyone present was stunned, wondering why Song Yi suddenly changed his mind. Could it be that he still cared about his classmates? Even Jing Miaoyi was stunned for a moment. Many students even shouted quickly. Pei Jun, hurry up. Before he finished speaking, he heard Song Yi interrupting everyone and saying with a sarcastic smile. Climb over here and I'll protect you. Otherwise, get out. Song Yi's expression changed and he snorted coldly. He just wants to make the person in front of him lose face, trample his dignity under his feet, and let Jing Miaoyi stare at it with wide eyes. Look what kind of dog man she is looking for. How can it be compared to him? What a waste. Just as Song Yi was waiting for Pei Jun to crawl over like a dog, immersed in the secret pleasure, Pei Jun, who had been silent all this time, slowly raised his head. His eyes were fixed on Song Yi. As the distance got closer, everyone could see clearly Pei Jun's bloody body and blood-dried facial features, and his terrifying face looked like it had climbed up from hell. Everyone was stunned. People didn't realize that fierce murderous intent and hatred slowly rose in Pei Jun's blood-stained eyes. Like a sea of blood, Song Yi was drowning in front of him. Previous life. In the 7th year of the revival of the myth, the magical city fell into the ocean. The three major cities of Hangzhou, Jinling and Chong gathered all their forces to form the 4th largest combat base in China. Southeast Base. At the same time, the first front will be built with Hangzhou as the center. Relying on the initial accumulation and family strength, the Song family of the original Magic City became one of the top leaders of the Southeast Base. In the 10th year of the revival of the myth, a person in power came to the front in Hangzhou. His surname is Song and his given name is Yi. Pei Jun was a mid-level combatant on the Hangzhou front at the time. Although the two were classmates before Shinwa's revival, now one is aloof and the other is as humble as an ant, and the two have little contact with each other. Unexpectedly, in the 11th year after the revival of the myth, the ocean monster attacks again. Among the attacking monsters is a terrifying disaster-level royal beast, and there are countless disaster-level king beasts. Just as the Hangzhou front was preparing to resist desperately, Song Yi, the leader of the front, fled without a fight and immediately fled back to the southeast base in the rear. The Hangzhou front could still have fought. Without the strongest man in charge, the morale of the battle line dropped again and again. Coupled with the strength of the Imperial Beast, the Hangzhou battle line fell apart in just a few days. The final result was that the city of Hangzhou was destroyed and Lord Pei died. And not just Pei Jun, tens of thousands of combatants in Hangzhou all died in that extremely angry war. And the culprit of all this is Song Yi in front of him. Thinking of everything in his previous life, Pei Jun slowly raised his head, looked at Song Yi who was still smiling ferociously with his scarlet eyes, and spoke in a cold tone like the one from hell. You deserve to die. This is not only his, but also the common voice of tens of thousands of combatants who died in previous lives, a heart-breaking voice. After saying that, Pei Jun suddenly exerted force on his feet and rushed towards Song Yi who was very close in front of him. The ferocious smile on Song Yi's face stopped abruptly, and he looked at Pei Jun who rushed towards him with a slightly surprised expression. Jun Pei, what are you going to do? The classmates behind him were also exclaiming, wondering why Pei Jun suddenly attacked Song Yi. The key is, there is no way to win. In the biting wind, Pei Jun heard the shouts of his classmates, and a crazy smile flashed in his eyes. I want revenge. The anger and shock in the previous life when I learned that Song Yi fled without fighting. The pain and despair of being devoured and torn apart by monsters in the previous life. The resentment and unwillingness at the time of death in the previous life. At this time, everything turned into a punch in Pei Jun's hand. Pei Jun looked like a tiger pouncing on food, raised his arm to draw the bow, and punched Song Yi's position with a bang. The bodyguard in front of Song Yi had already reacted. Looking at Pei Jun who was charging towards him with a ferocious smile, the bodyguard directly raised his fist and punched him. The bodyguard has a strong build and is even bigger than Pei Jun. He thought he could easily deal with the overestimating guy in front of him, and then leave it to the boss to deal with. Although Song Yi was surprised at Pei Jun's overestimation of his own abilities, when he saw that Pei Jun was about to confront the bodyguard, he also let out a disdainful sneer. Funny. Where did this idiot come from? Who gave him the courage to punch him? The classmates behind him couldn't bear to close their eyes. They had seen the strength of Song Yi's bodyguards throughout the whole process, and they were able to fight back even when faced with weird monsters. Ordinary people have no power to resist. They still don't understand why Mr. Pei did such a powerless act. There was a strange look in Jing Miaoyi's beautiful eyes in the distance. She was not surprised or shocked by Pei Jun's astonishing move. Ever since she saw Pei Jun's joking and chuckled at night, Jing Miaoyi felt that this man would do anything surprising. It seems, no surprise. Si Hemi was a little shocked and his eyes widened slightly. Amid the different expressions on everyone's faces, Pei Jun's sudden punch collided with the bodyguard's punch. There was a muffled sound, and then everyone heard an extremely miserable scream. Ah! Blood splattered. Everyone looked in shock at the broken limbs and arms rising into the sky, as well as the bodyguard who fell to the ground, arms folded and wailing. Pei Jun punched the bodyguard's arm. The students who were still worried about Pei Jun opened their eyes wide and looked at Pei Jun in shock. How is this possible? A look of disbelief appeared in everyone's mind. Even the professional bodyguards next to Jing Miaoyi and others opened their eyes wide and looked at Pei Jun in surprise. Although they thought they were not inferior to Song Yi's bodyguards, they thought they couldn't do it if they could blow someone up so violently. Normal people simply can't do this. The bones of the arm are considered to be the harder bones of the body, and are wrapped with countless muscle tissues. It is possible to break the side due to gravity, but it is simply unheard of to directly explode it from the front. However, Pei Jun in front of him did it. And, it only took one punch. Many people at the scene even had doubts in their minds, who is this person? Still human? Or is it still the Pei Jun they know? Everyone's thoughts turned around. Pei Jun, who had blasted the bodyguards in front of him, did not stop at all with his fists. He punched Song Yi fiercely and resolutely with dripping blood. The bodyguards beside Song Yi also reacted at this time. Although they were shocked by Pei Jun's violence, they did not hesitate at all and attacked Pei Ju directly. The cold light flashed in my hand. Astonishingly, it was a short sword with a cold light shining on it. Since you can't win in a head-to-head fight, let's use a sword. They don't believe that Pei Jun's physical body can withstand the sharp blade. The bodyguard's eyes were fierce and he didn't hold anything back in his hands. The fierceness of the bodyguard made many students behind Song Yi have their eyelids jump and their hearts tremble. When have they ever seen such a scene? In the blink of an eye, countless cold lights approached Pei Jun's body. The bodyguard's wrist used force again and stabbed fiercely. Facing the cold light from all directions, Pei Jun ignored it at all and allowed countless cold lights to fall on his body. The whole person still pounced on Song Yi as fiercely as a tiger pounces on food. Countless cold lights stabbed at Pei Jun's body. The expected splash of blood did not appear. Instead, when the dagger came into contact with Pei Jun's body, it actually made several harsh sounds like a clash of swords. Crack. It's like taking a short knife and scratching it on hard steel. Golden lines of light appeared vaguely under Pei Jun's skin. The short knife attack did not bring any scars to him except for scratching his clothes. His current magical power of indestructibility has already entered the palace, and ordinary swords cannot pierce his body or scratch his skin. So facing the cold light from all directions, Pei Jun didn't pay any attention to it. Pei Jun's expression remained unchanged, but the expressions of the attackers around him completely changed. A hint of shock appeared in the originally stern eyes. What kind of monster is this? The rest of the people around looked equally shocked, especially when they heard the sound of the sword clashing when the dagger penetrated Pei Jun's skin. At first, everyone thought that Pei Jun was gone. But I didn't expect that the next second the sound of fighting was heard. Deep astonishment and shock appeared in everyone's eyes, and many people even shouted. Body armor. It's not right. Everyone could clearly see that Pei Jun's skin under his tattered clothes was normal skin. Not wearing any clothes. Then how did this sound of fighting come from? Could it be the sound of the dagger hitting Pei Jun's skin? Are you kidding me? Everyone's eyes were filled with astonishment and their minds were in disbelief. If this is the sound coming from the skin, then is Pei Jun's skin made of steel? Si Hemi next to Jing Miaoyi also opened his eyes wide at this time, looking at Pei Jun's skin with a gaze, and murmured. Is it a mechanical modification? No, the company's technology has just become effective and has not been promoted yet. Si Hemi muttered to himself and denied his words. Then he stared at Mr. Pei with an even more curious expression, wanting to see clearly Mr. Pei's secret. Something strange appeared in Jing Miaoyi's calm and beautiful eyes. At the moment when the dagger was attacked, she seemed to vaguely see a golden light emerging on Pei Jun's skin. Treasure. Then what? Jing Miaoyi didn't know, but Jing Miaoyi's curiosity about Pei Jun became even more intense. All the thoughts happened in an instant. In the stunned eyes of everyone, Pei Jun's punch also hit Song Yi in front of him. Boom! A flash of golden light emerged, blocking Mr. Pei's attack. Pei Jun looked intently at the Buddhist beads on Song Yi's wrist, with a flash of cruelty in his eyes. Spiritual protector. Protect such a lord. What use do you have to such a spiritual creature? A burst of anger and madness suddenly broke out in his heart. Pei Jun raised his hand to draw the bow again, and struck Song Yi fiercely again. Golden light appeared on the fist, and the bonuses brought by the Vajra indestructible magic and the Vajra glazed body all fell on Pei Jun's fist. Bang! 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 Hearing several continuous roars, the golden light in front of Song Yi was shattered by Pei Jun. Everyone only heard a slight cry, and the bracelet on Song Yi's wrist broke instantly, and the beads scattered on the ground. Song Yi's eyes were completely filled with panic at this time. Originally, Pei Jun attacked him in a blink of an eye and startled him, but unexpectedly, he was instantly blocked by his own Buddha beads. Before Song Yi could be happy, he saw Pei Jun with fierce eyes and punched several times, directly destroying the protection of the bracelet. At this moment, a punch with murderous intent arrived in front of him. Song Yi had no doubt that this punch could blast him. He looked shocked and wanted to block it with the Fang Tian painted halberd in his hand. However, Fang Tian's painted halberd was inconvenient to operate, and Song Yi had no time to resist. Just when Pei Jun's punch was about to hit Song Yi's face, just when Song Yi's expression was completely panicked, several gunshots suddenly sounded from behind Pei Jun. Bang! 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 It turned out that the bodyguard who reacted shot Junpei directly in the back. The deafening gunfire shook the entire lifeless fog, and the female classmates hiding behind Song Yi even screamed. Song Yi's desperate eyes also showed a hint of hope and a sinister smile. Pei Jun had long been on guard against the gun in the bodyguard's hand, so when his consciousness saw the bodyguard behind him taking out the gun and pulling the trigger, Pei Jun directly activated the Sanqing bell. Everyone only heard a vague bell ringing, and then saw that several bullets flying towards Pei Jun were still in the air. Song Yi's grinning eyes suddenly stopped. With everyone looking in disbelief, Pei Jun punched Song Yi in the head. No! Song Yi screamed in despair. At the last moment, Fang Tian's painted halberd in Song Yi's hand glowed with a mysterious light, as if he wanted to stop Pei Jun. But a more majestic aura suddenly emerged from the blood droplets in the mutton fat jade bottle on Pei Jun's chest. After the aura passed, the light blooming from Fang Tian's painted halberd also dissipated instantly. Boom! In Song Yi's desperate eyes, Pei Jun punched Song Yi's head. Blood splatters. Screams kept coming. All the classmates behind Song Yi were stunned as they looked at the blood and corpses rising into the sky in front of them. Between the electric light and flint, Song Yi has died in the hands of Pei Jun. Before everyone's frightened eyes dissipated, the deathly silent beasts peeking out of the lifeless mist from all directions were already roaring and rushing towards the crowd. Without the resistance of Fang Tian's painted halberd, the dead silence beast seemed to be in a deserted land, and everyone fell into panic and despair again. Song Yi's bodyguard originally wanted to avenge Song Yi, but before he could fire again, another monster attack came from the mist. Quickly turn around and attack the monster. The blood on his hands fell to the ground drop by drop. Pei Jun took a deep breath and felt that the burden that had been weighing on his heart since his rebirth finally dissipated. Listening to the screams and roars surrounding him, Pei Jun picked up Fang Tian's painted halberd on the ground. The spiritual energy in the body instantly surged into Fang Tian's painted halberd. Fang Tian's painted halberd, which had not been moved for thousands of years, was like a dried fish meeting water, and the mysterious light around him surged crazily. Fang Tian's painted halberd in Pei Jun's hand and Song Yi's hand seemed to have two completely different effects. If Song Yi holding Fang Tian's painted halberd feels like a child's weapon, in Pei Jun's hands it feels like a tailor-made weapon, extremely powerful. The blood drops in the mutton fat jade bottle on Pei Jun's chest also rose and fell again. Pei Jun turned around slowly with violent eyes. Seeing the dead beasts coming from all directions, Fang Tian's painted halberd in his hand suddenly hit the ground. The blood-condensed earth suddenly cracked, and a bright and dazzling black light suddenly burst out from Fang Tian's painted halberd, rushing around like a wave. Break! Being swept by the mysterious light, all the dead beasts that rushed towards them were stunned, and they let out painful wails and screams. Their twisted and weird figures became dim and even nearly collapsed. They all roared and screamed before escaping into the aura of death. Don't dare to take another step forward. Mr. Pei stood quietly holding his halberd. The crowd around him was silent, except for a pair of shocked eyes. Outside world. 4 days have passed since Shen Ruo set off. Shen Ruo has arrived in Yunling City, and based on previous clues, he found Jiazi and others who were trapped in a factory. Trapped in the factory is a pack of wolves. Shen Ruo frowned and looked out the window at this time, only to see countless wild wolves entrenched or wandering on the mountain outside the window blocked with wooden boards and steel bars. At this time, the size of these wild wolves are several times larger than their original size, and their temperament looks more ferocious and cruel. Many wild wolves have even undergone some twisted and strange changes in their body shape. For example, the leader of the wolf pack turned out to be a giant silver wolf with 2 wings on its back. The figure of this giant wolf is no longer as weak and slender as before. At this time, the entire body is even larger and more powerful than lions and tigers. There is a cunning look in his eyes that is similar to wisdom. Moreover, Shen Ruo had seen more than once that this silver giant wolf could actually produce the slightest trace of thunder when its wings were waving. Obviously, the giant wolf in front of him could no longer be simply classified as a wolf. This also reminded Shen Ruo more than once of the thunderous thunder he saw on the way to find Pei Jun that night. That very coincidental thunderstorm made Shen Ruo suspicious. Although she had never seen Pei Jun use the same method, Shen Ruo's intuition told her that the thunder that night was caused by Pei Jun. Otherwise, how could it be such a coincidence? Could it be that just like this giant wolf, Mr. Pei has undergone a strange mutation? But there were no deformities or strange things in Pei Jun's body. Shen Ruo shook his head and turned to look at the factory behind him. At this time, there were not only Shen Ruo, Jiazi and others in the factory, but also hundreds of people who were also taking refuge here. The target of the wolves is them. In the past 4 days, the wolves have launched several attacks. Relying on their numerical advantage and the factory environment, everyone barely resisted the wolf attacks, but at the cost of dozens of lives. Nowadays, people in the factory are panicked. Because people don't know how long they can hold on, and there is not much food and water in the factory. Thinking of this, Shen Ruo couldn't help but look at the phone in his hand again. There is no signal on the mobile phone. There was no reply to the message sent to Pei Jun a few days ago. Pei Jun seemed to have disappeared since 5 days ago. Shen Ruo sighed. Are we going to die here? A man with an injury on his face said next to Shen Ruo. The man's face looked similar to Shen Ruo's, and he was also younger. It was the younger brother Shen Ruo had been looking for, Shen Lin. We'll get out. Shen Ruo raised his hand and wanted to pat Shen Lin's head like he did when he was a child, but thinking of their age now, his raised hand fell on Shen Lin's shoulder. Who will save us? The person behind him asked with a fearful expression. The army has too much time to take care of itself at the moment. The entire Yunling city has undergone tremendous changes. There are so many wild beasts in the mountains that they can't even spare their hands. Someone said with the same fear. The factory suddenly erupted in desperate lamentations one after another. Among the dimensional fragments, there is still the bloody and hardened earth, the lifeless mist, and the dead beasts wandering and peeping around. Pei Jun dragged a body and threw it into the surrounding fog. Suddenly, there were bursts of roaring and gnawing sounds in the mist, which made everyone's hair stand on end. After freeing his hands, Song Yi's bodyguards were decisively dealt with by Pei Jun one by one, and then all the bodies were thrown into the mist. After throwing away the last body, Pei Jun turned his head and glanced indifferently at his classmates, Jing Miaoyi and others who were sitting together. The already frightened classmates met Pei Jun's eyes and shuddered. After we go out, we will never tell the Song family. Yes. After we go out, we will never tell the Song family. We said absolutely nothing about what happened today. Never mention it. We don't know anything. Everyone swore and said, feeling extremely frightened towards Mr. Pei, for fear that Mr. Pei would chop off their heads with a knife later. It is true that the style that Pei Jun showed just now is too cold and cruel. Pei Jun just glanced at everyone indifferently, not caring about everyone's oaths at all. What is an oath? After the revival of the myth, even dogs don't believe it. If the Song family still dares to trouble him, he doesn't mind letting the Song family disappear from this world early to eliminate harm for the people. A trace of cruelty flashed in Pei Jun's eyes. After an unknown amount of time, Pei Jun, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, suddenly opened his eyes. He felt that the rich spiritual energy began to flow and even dissipate. I saw the death energy all around began to roll, and violent shocks and trances were heard throughout the dimensional fragments. People vaguely saw familiar mountains, rivers and cities among the fragments. At this moment, it's like the worlds overlap. The surrounding students all stood up in surprise at this time, looking at the familiar world in the blur, and exclaimed. Can we go back? It's the magic city. The crowd screamed, the death energy rolled, and the dimension fragments quietly collapsed. The lights near the Tianma Hotel were brightly lit, and countless figures were moving around. Experts and scholars have been studying the missing top floor of the Tianma Hotel for several days. But there was no progress. It was dark night, and many people were already a little sleepy. One of the experts raised his head and yawned, and was surprised to find that the night above his head had changed. At this moment, a vague shadow appeared in the originally pitch-black night. Within the shadow was a strange world that was hardened with blood and extremely dark. This, the yawning expert exclaimed and quickly shook the colleague who had fallen asleep next to him. Countless people were shocked by the shadow in the night and stood up to observe. Many people even took out professional equipment and started recording. On this day, dimension fragments officially came into people's sight for the first time. While people were recording, the shadows on the night faded and dissipated, and finally gradually disappeared into the night. And as the shadow disappeared, many exclamations and calls for help rang out in the darkness around the Tianma Hotel. "Who? Over there?" The sound instantly disturbed the quiet station. Countless figures heard the sound and ran away. Light beams swayed in the night and scanned, and then they found extremely embarrassed figures in the darkness. These people had frightened eyes and looked extremely embarrassed. As if they had just escaped from somewhere, many of them even cried bitterly when they saw the searching crowd. The searchers gradually recognized the figures they had discovered secretly. These people were indeed the missing people on the rooftop that they had been looking for so many days. Song Yi's classmates and others. In the past few days, everyone had already written down all the people who disappeared that day, so many people recognized them the moment they saw the figure. Came back. They showed up. News spread rapidly to all directions, and countless vehicles sped past in the dark night. Just as the vehicle was speeding by, a huge modified G in the resort suddenly started up and drove against the flow of traffic into the dark night in the distance. In the car was Pei Jun, who came out of the dimension fragments. At this time, Pei Jun's clothes had been changed into bodyguard clothes. However, his face was still a bit ferocious and his blood was dry. After moving his neck, Pei Jun looked at the hotel with flickering lights behind him and let out a breath. Everything went smoothly this time. He killed Song Yi, who had caused his death in his previous life, and grabbed the top treasure, the Fengtian painted halberd. And there's an unexpected bonus. Pei Jun glanced at the divine blood in the jade bottle with his consciousness, and there was a hint of excitement in his eyes. The strength and vision shown by the divine blood were very terrifying. Just a drop of blood could suppress a dead beast. He had never heard of it in his previous life. If the fusion can be successful, you may be able to obtain unexpected and huge benefits. In his previous life, he heard that someone had merged with the divine blood. Some people have acquired peerless inheritance, some have acquired innate magical powers, and some have acquired astonishing bloodline. But no matter what, the strength or talent will definitely increase significantly. Now that he has been reborn, Pei Jun has no shortage of Lingbao skills, and now he is worried about how to solve his own talent. After all, although his talent is not bad, it is definitely not good, let alone the group of amazing talents in his previous life. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been so miserable in my previous life. You must know that in the past life, when the revival of mythology had just begun, many geniuses opened their top bloodlines and entered the extraordinary realm in just a month or two. What's more, as soon as he awakens, he masters the terrifying innate magical power. His strength instantly reached inhuman proportions. It took Pei Jun several years to get to this point in his previous life. Although the process was quite bumpy, it also highlighted that his qualifications were indeed poor. So Pei Jun is worried about how to solve the talent problem. Even if the divine blood cannot solve the talent problem, it is still good if it can improve the strength or inherit the skills. The stronger he is, the faster he can reach the top after Shinhua is revived, and then he can find ways to improve his talent. This is really an unexpected surprise. This is also Pei Jun's biggest gain from this operation. After returning to Hangzhou, find a hidden place and start fusing the divine blood immediately. You should be able to catch up with the revival of the myth. Thinking of this, Pei Jun took out his mobile phone. I heard in my previous life that the passage of time in dimension fragments is different from the outside world. I wonder how long it has been since this operation. Is there any other news from the outside world? The mobile phone that had no signal before now had news. Pei Jun looked and saw that it was already the night of July 20th. Pei Jun's eyes narrowed. The time he entered the dimension fragment was July 15th, the day of the class reunion. 5 days passed in the blink of an eye. This was really beyond his expectation. While Pei Jun was concentrating, information from various software also popped up, and the news came one after another. While driving, Pei Jun briefly read the various information and news that popped up, mainly updates from the public accounts and bloggers he followed. Recently, there have been more and more visions of heaven and earth, and there has been more news on the internet. Pei Jun took a quick look and found that someone had also sent a message on WeChat a few days ago. There was Mr. Lin, and there was also Shen Ruo. Mr. Lin briefly talked about the current business situation of the martial arts gym. With more and more news online, people have become more enthusiastic about learning martial arts, and the business of martial arts gyms has also become better, unlike before, which was deserted. As for Shen Ruo, Pei Jun frowned and looked at the message from Shen Ruo. There are 2 messages in total, both sent 4 days ago. The first one said that she had found her brother and where he was. She was going to go to Yunling City in person. The second message was sent that night, saying that he had arrived in Yunling City and was heading to his brother's location. However, there was an earthquake in Yunling City and the situation was a bit chaotic. 2 simple messages, more like reporting on the itinerary. Pei Jun was very satisfied with the information sent by Shen Ruo. He knew that reporting the itinerary showed that he still had a place in his heart. But Pei Jun thought of the news about Yunling City in his previous life. I remember that in the previous life, Yunling City had a violent strange phenomenon a few days before Shinwa's revival. It was also the first place where turmoil occurred during Shinwa's revival. After the revival of the myth, it was directly isolated by the 100,000 mountains and became a paradise for monsters and beasts. The human race inside was even more desperate and became the prey of the monster beasts in captivity. It can be said that this is an absolutely dangerous place. This is why Pei Jun was sure that Shen Ruo would come to him later. His original plan was to wait for Shen Ruo to come to him and surrender completely. Then he went there himself and brought the person back to her. Unexpectedly, the dimension fragments delayed for too long, and Shen Ruo actually acted on his own. This woman can't die, can she? Pei Jun felt solemn in his heart. Although he has no concern about a person's life or death, it is difficult to find a useful knife. He finally found one, so he couldn't just break it before using it, right? Pei Jun stopped the car and tried to call Shen Ruo, but couldn't get through at all. Pei Jun looked for recent news in Yunling City on the internet. Nothing unusual. But Pei Jun's brows furrowed. He remembered that changes had already occurred in Yunling City at this time in his previous life, and he seemed to have never heard of it in his previous life. Later he found out that the official had blocked all information in order to stabilize society. Just like now, all entries related to Yunling City have been blocked. After pondering for a moment, Pei Jun directly bought a flight to Nanyang City on his mobile phone, then turned the steering wheel and headed towards the Magic City Airport. A factory in Yunling City. It was late at night, but the factory was not quiet at all. Wolf howls surrounded the entire factory one after another, mixed with angry shouts and screams from time to time. There is a big battle going on in the factory. A battle between humans and wolves. In the night surrounding the factory, countless wolves were seen attacking frantically from various passages, and there were even several giant wolves slamming into the factory's hard door. Make a bang, bang, bang sound. Every violent impact was like hitting people's hearts, making the people taking refuge in the factory feel their hearts skip a beat and their whole bodies tremble. It was the mutant wolves from before that attacked the factory. At this time, under the leadership of the leading double-winged silver wolf, they once again launched a fierce attack on the factory. Just as people were desperately resisting the impact and attack from the main entrance in front, a panicked shout suddenly came from the factory behind. They're coming from behind. I saw countless mutant giant wolves rushing towards the crowd in a passage behind the factory, their blood-red eyes revealing their ferocity and cruelty. The crowd was in panic. Fortunately, the factory was well prepared. The moment the giant wolf attacked, a group of people holding iron rods and steel bars rushed out quickly, resisting the giant wolf's attack. Roar. The giant wolf roars ferociously. Go to hell. The crowd wildly waved their improvised weapons to resist the attack of the giant wolf. Suddenly, blood splattered. The ground at the back door of the factory was dyed dark red. After resisting for about half an hour, the factory once again cost several lives. The attacking wolves finally retreated into the darkness with a long roar. Everyone in the factory exhaled and looked at the blood-flowing ground with solemn and angry expressions. These beasts are really cunning. Someone shook off the blood on the steel bars and cursed angrily. Fortunately, we were prepared, otherwise these beasts would have succeeded tonight. He actually knows how to make false claims in the east and attack in the west. The wolf nature is indeed cunning. Everyone who had regained their breath also started talking. Fortunately, Miss Shen Ruo thought of it in advance, otherwise. Someone said, looking gratefully at Shen Ruo, who was standing on the second floor of the factory. After these 4 days of hard work, Shen Ruo's pretty face had faded a lot. At this time, she was frowning and looking out through the window on the second floor. I saw a terrifying figure reflected in the cold moonlight on the high mountain in the distance. It is the leader of the wolf pack, the giant silver wolf with 2 wings. Compared with the previous few days, this double-winged silver wolf has grown in size again, and the thunder between its wings has become much more violent. With slight flapping, a dazzling electric light will jump out from time to time. At this time, the giant wolf was entrenched under the moonlight. Shen Ruo looked at the 2-winged silver wolf in the distance and thought of a word from ancient legends. Practice. Shen Ruo once read some ancient texts or stories. It is said that there are monsters in the legend who can cultivate with the help of moonlight and eventually become monsters. The more he looked at it, the more Shen Ruo felt that this giant double-winged wolf was like this. What happened to this world? Shen Ruo only felt that her worldview was constantly being subverted, and she had a more worrying guess in her mind at this time. I always feel like this giant wolf is training our troops. Shen Ruo frowned and said in a deep voice. As soon as the words came out, the surrounding people were in an uproar, and they all looked at the giant wolf looking in the distance in shock. No. Can you? Someone said in disbelief. I have this weird feeling too. Some people frowned in response. This giant 2-winged wolf is obviously more terrifying in strength, but it has never made a move. And based on my observations over the past few days, this group of wolves also goes to other places to hunt during the day, so there is no shortage of food. But they still besiege the factory day and night, and launch attacks every night. It seems to be premeditated, training. Shen Ruo paused and finally said in a deep voice. When everyone thought about it, it seemed that just as Shen Ruo said, many people felt much heavier at the moment. Whether we are training or not, we have to find a way to get out as soon as possible. Shen Ruo sighed lightly and said. After several nights of fighting, although only a few people died each time, the accumulated strength of the factory's young men had been seriously lost. Even if the 2-winged silver wolf doesn't take action, I'm afraid it won't last twice. That means 2 more nights. Moreover, people in the factory are now in panic, and countless people are exhausted, haggard, and their spirits cannot last much longer. Moreover, if the 2-winged silver wolf takes action. Thinking of the thunder on the back of the 2-winged silver wolf, Shen Ruo didn't feel confident at all. But how to escape? There is no rescue information yet. I have heard the sound of shells exploding in the distance, but they are still far away from us. And they are all loaded with shells. The situation in Yunling City may be worse than we thought. No one can come to save us. We can only wait to die. The people in the factory are in panic, with despair in their eyes. In these 5 days, the hope in their hearts has been completely wiped out. On the other side is the villa area at the foot of Tianmu Mountain in Hangzhou. In the night, countless figures dressed in black walked quickly through, and finally entered a mountainside villa. Junpei, I've seen all the photos. Catch him alive after you find him. Search each room at the same time for suspicious information. Watch out for the fetish. Orders were issued quickly, and groups of men in black with guns cautiously opened the doors of each room, and then searched for the target. Not on the first floor. Not on the second floor. Not even on the third floor. Soon, groups of men in black with solemn faces returned to the hall and reported in a deep voice. The man in black, the leader, glanced at the villa with a surprised look, frowned and asked. Nothing. No, the target is not there, and there is nothing in the room. It's like a new house. Someone said. The leader said solemnly. Have you really discovered us? The leader glanced at the empty villa, a flash of alarm flashed in his heart, and then ordered in a deep voice. Retreat first. As soon as the words fell, the teams quickly flashed out of the villa and disappeared silently into the night. The person coming tonight is none other than a Tai creature. Because no specific information was reported before the 2U operation, the company searched for several days before following the clues and identifying Pei Jun. But Mr. Pei seems to have disappeared recently and has not been seen for a long time. So Tai Creatures is ready to take the initiative and go directly to the villa to capture Mr. Pei and take back the divine artifact at the same time. But I didn't expect. Pei Jun had already arrived at the Magic City airport. Looking at the lights outside the window, Pei Jun thought about his next action. There are no longer any flights into Yunling City. Nanyang City is the closest province and city to Yunling City. He could only fly to Nanyang tomorrow morning, then rent a car and go to Yunling to find the address Shen Ruofa gave him. It won't arrive until tomorrow night at the earliest. Hope that woman is still alive. When he arrived at the airport, Pei Jun found a hotel nearby, and then went upstairs with his room card in front of the horrified eyes at the front desk. The blood on Pei Jun's face has not been wiped clean now. When the front desk saw him in the middle of the night, he was horrified and thought he was not a real person. It's a resentful ghost. If he knew the psychology of the receptionist, Pei Jun might have said something to her calmly. In a few days, the resentful ghost will really appear. When mythology is revived, monsters and monsters will appear one after another, including the illusory ghosts in legend. Pei Jun had encountered him several times in his previous life. I was really shocked when I saw it for the first time. After entering the room, Pei Jun took a hot shower and finally felt more comfortable. Then he sat cross-legged and meditated until dawn. The dried spiritual energy has also recovered a lot. As soon as it got dark, Pei Jun rushed to the airport and took the earliest flight to Nanyang City. And just when Pei Jun was heading to Nanyang City, an angry voice came from the Shishan resort in the Magic City. Jun Pei, why did he kill Yer? Ah, if I don't kill you, I swear I won't be a father. In the temporary office of the hotel, a majestic middle-aged man with a somewhat similar face to Song Yi turned furious and kicked the desk in front of him, roaring with an extremely angry face. After everyone returned from the dimension fragment last night, Song's father rushed to the hotel anxiously, and then found that Song Yi was not found. He felt something was wrong last night. But the rest of the people who were found said that Song Yi came out with them, so Song's father could only hold on to hope and send more people to continue searching. I almost turned over the entire Shishan mountain. But Song Yi was not found all night. Then Father Song discovered that some of the people who came out last night looked wrong. Father Song immediately started to coerce and lure them, and finally made them talk easily with the promise of a house. Then I heard that Song Yi had died in that strange place. The murderer is Pei Jun. This is also the reason why Father Song looked furious just now. Song Yi is the successor of the Song family in the Demon City, and the most promising candidate to take over the entire Song family. What's more, the son he has raised for more than 20 years is so scared that he would melt in the palm of his hand. But now he died inexplicably at the hands of his classmates. How could he bear this? How calm he could be? The hatred of killing a son is irreconcilable. Father Song's eyes flashed with strong murderous intent, and he immediately ordered with murderous intent. Use all your hands to find Mr. Pei. Bring him here. I want him to die badly. Go. Father Song shouted angrily at his men, who immediately took action quickly. On this day, under the gaze of countless people, the behemoth of the Demon City Song family suddenly took action. Murderous intent. When Pei Jun arrived in Nanyang City, it was already noon. At 3 o'clock in the day, Pei Jun found a car rental agency. With Pei Jun's aggressive approach of not short of money, everything went smoothly. But when Pei Jun said he was going to Yunling City, the smile on the car rental agency owner's face disappeared instantly, and he looked at Pei Jun with a somewhat panicked expression. He turned his head to look around and saw that no one was around, and immediately whispered, "Handsome guy, we can't go to Yunling. Yunling is hit by a disaster now. Oops, many people died. Many people escaped from it, saying there were monsters inside. I heard that the army has entered. I can't go, I can't go. It's deadly." The boss tried to dissuade Mr. Pei, but Mr. Pei's goal was Yunling and he would not give up. In the end, when the boss refused, Pei Jun could only find another car rental agency. Looking at Pei Jun's retreating figure, the boss muttered, "He's handsome and rich, but he has a good life and must die. Why? I can't understand, I can't understand." Pei Jun then looked for several car rental agencies in succession, but when he heard that Pei Jun's destination was Yunling City, they all shook their heads in surprise and refused. In Yunling City, everyone is running away for their lives now. I don't understand why this young man wants to die. Although information is blocked on the internet, Nanyang is right next door to Yunling City, and many people fleeing the disaster have come here in the past few days. Some people have even seen the military entering. So people are now avoiding Yunling City. No one dares to go there, and no one is willing to rent a car to Peijun. Obviously it can be driven away, but it cannot be driven back. In the end, Peijun just spent money to buy a second-hand pickup truck and rushed into Yunling City with a kick of the accelerator. Along the way there were people and convoys fleeing the disaster in Yunling City, and on the way Peijun also heard that the current geographical environment of Yunling City has undergone serious changes. The mountains and rivers have become taller and more majestic, and the road conditions have become much more difficult. On the way Peijun arrived, Yunling City was trapped in a factory. Shen Ruo and others stood at the second-floor window, watching the roar from the sky. It's the sound of a plane. Someone shouted in surprise, and everyone raised their heads. Some even took out the distress flags that had been prepared and were ready to wave the flags as soon as the plane arrived. Look, is it a plane? Someone with good eyesight pointed at two black spots in the sky in the distance and shouted. Everyone came together one after another. Really are. What a plane. Someone is here to save us. We are finally saved. Looking at the plane getting closer and closer to the sky, many people shouted excitedly, with hope shining in their eyes. Shen Ruo was also standing at the window at this time, looking at the approaching plane, with a flash of hope in his eyes. Things are getting tougher at the factory. She estimated that she would not last more than 2 days. Fine. Shen Ruo looked at the plane flying in the sky and felt relieved in his heart. Just as everyone was shouting in surprise and waving the distress flags in their hands, the plane flying from the sky flew directly over the factory without stopping at all. Flying into the distance, many people chased the plane and shouted, "Save us! Why don't you stop?" The crowd who had just had hope in their eyes suddenly became panicked, with looks of disbelief and despair in their eyes. Oh shit! Someone looked at the plane in the distance and shouted angrily. Everyone now understands that the plane is not here to rescue them at all, it is just passing by. After thinking about it, many people in the factory even cried over their heads. Ooh, we are hopeless. Shen Ruo also clenched his fists and dug his nails deeply into his skin. Shen Lin next to him did the same, with a desperate look on his face. After nearly 20 years of separation, I finally reunited with my sister. Unexpectedly. This reunion turned out to be a reunion before death. God is so unfair. Moreover, the desperate people also discovered that the wolves that were originally entrenched near the factory and never moved during the day suddenly started to move as the plane flew over. Airplanes irritate them. They may launch an attack in advance. I'm afraid the plane has made them impatient. There is no shortage of smart people in the factory. They figured out the level in an instant, and their faces became even more ugly. Act quickly. Quick. Shen Ruo and several other leaders quickly gave orders, and everyone in the factory started to defend themselves with worried expressions. Everyone clenched their weapons. Shen Rui touched the pistol at his waist with serious eyes and took a deep breath. A military station somewhere in Yunling City. Dust was flying. Following the command of the land personnel, the two dusty planes slowly landed. The pilots quickly disembarked and headed towards the temporary office at the base. At this time, the base's temporary office was noisy. Countless quarrels, rescue calls, and orders were mixed together, and everyone was in a hurry. The driver quickly entered an office and reported the situation to the man sitting in the office. We have clearly investigated the situation in the urban area. The evacuees are mainly concentrated in the west of Yunling City. There is an air raid shelter there, and many people are taking refuge in it. As for the south of the city, because it is close to the Hengduan Mountains, there is no human habitation now, and mutated animals can be seen everywhere. The situation in the east part of the city is not very good either. The zoo as the center has been occupied by mutant animals, and the traces of human existence have been greatly reduced. After the quick report, the man in military uniform behind the office had already stood up. After synthesizing the information from all parties, he finally gave the order to the people around him. Rescue Chengxi first. At the same time, arrange for a special operations team to enter the east of the city to check the situation. After receiving the order, the other uniformed personnel in the room responded one after another, turned around and left the office in a hurry. After giving the order, before the driver left, the man in military uniform in the office looked at the driver with a puzzled expression. "What, is there anything else?" The driver was silent for a moment, and finally said hesitantly, "On our way back, we saw many former factories in the mountains from the south to the west of the city, and there were many survivors among them. These people." The pilot recalled that on the way back, he saw many survivors who were excited and chasing for help when they saw the plane they were driving. "I couldn't bear it, so I spoke out." After listening to the driver's words, the man in military uniform also fell silent, and finally sighed with a sad expression and said, "I know what you're thinking. But now Yunling City has changed drastically, especially in the mountainous areas, which are almost completely isolated. When we first entered Yunling City, we accidentally entered the mountainous area and were attacked by countless mutated animals, resulting in heavy casualties. We are already understaffed today. There are people in the entire city waiting for us to rescue them. Hey. As he spoke, the man in military uniform hammered the table hard. His eyes turned red, and he cursed in a low voice. What a thief! The earth-shattering changes in Yunling City completely caught them off guard. Although the central government promptly ordered a rescue operation, the changes in Yunling City have begun rapidly. They are already late. It's not that they don't want to save, it's that there's nothing they can do. Now they can only find a way to rescue the concentrated trapped people in the city. As for the isolated survivors in the mountainous area, they have more than they can afford." Finally, the driver left the office with a sad expression. Pei Jun drove the pickup truck quickly toward Yunling City and met many refugees on the road. Most of these people were family units, gathering together in groups of 3 or 3 and rushing towards Nanyang City and the bases established by the army. Entering Yunling City, all network information was cut off. Pei Jun stopped a convoy and asked for directions. The leader of the convoy was a middle-aged man with a hideous wound on his face. After hearing about Pei Jun's intention, he quickly advised with a worried look. "Young man, you can't go. Let's go. Did you see the injuries on my face? They were scratched by those monsters." The middle-aged man pointed at the hideous wound on his face and said, "Now the entire Yunling City is no longer the Yunling City it once was. The world has changed drastically and monsters have appeared. Very dangerous." The middle-aged man and the people around him warned. "Brother, there is a monster behind you." Next to the middle-aged man, a little girl with eyes full of fear said crisply. Pei Jun smiled and shook his head. After thanking him sincerely, he continued to drive the pickup truck towards the location given to him by Shen Ruofa in the eyes of everyone with confusion and fear. At this time, the mountain factory. Shen Ruo looked solemnly at the two-winged silver wolf rising from the top of the mountain in the distance, feeling uneasy in his heart. After the two-winged silver wolf stood up, he looked at the location of the factory with a fierce look, and then looked up to the sky and roared. Ouch! The howl of wolves spread throughout the fields, and the wolves trapped nearby responded one after another. Then Shen Ruo and others saw the wolves all over the mountains and plains rushing towards the factory like crazy. It's like a wave, shocking. What they were most worried about finally happened. After the stimulation of the morning flight, the two-winged silver wolf seemed to be aware of the danger, and now he finally made up his mind to capture the factory. Hurry and secure all the passages in the factory. As long as we can hold on, we still have a chance. Fight these beasts. Run. Everyone in the factory had been prepared for a long time. When they saw the wolves swarming towards them, the crowd in the factory also quickly took action. Teams armed with simple weapons quickly guarded the various passages of the factory. There is cruelty in the desperate eyes. Because everyone knows that today, either these beasts will die, or they will die. The women and children in the factory were also completely silent, and the entire factory fell into dead silence, leaving only pairs of worried and desperate eyes. Roar. Boom. The iron door of the factory was banged, and wolves howled and roared one after another. Go to hell. Everyone held steel and iron rods, holding back their cruelty in their hearts, and smashed it hard at the huge wolf head that rushed towards him, causing blood to fly everywhere. Seeing the blood, the wolves became more violent and attacked the crowd crazily with their scarlet eyes. Roar. Ah! Someone was accidentally bitten on the arm by a wild wolf. The ferocious wolf's head swung wildly, and a bloody arm was torn off amidst the screams. Then, in the panic of everyone, the arm was instantly eaten by several giant wolves, and the ferocious fangs of the giant wolves were covered with blood. Roar. It's coming from behind too. Window, hold the window. The factory was in chaos, and the windows that had been nailed shut began to shake as the giant wolf hit them. Everyone who is still alive, get up and guard the windows. Quick! Someone yelled crazily, and many old, weak, women and children in the factory gritted their teeth and stood up, pushing heavy objects towards the windows to block them. Confusion, scream, despair, fill the entire factory. The sun in the sky has slowly set, and the sky is dim. Pei Jun stopped the car and raised his eyebrows at the mutated creature blocking the road in front of the car. It was a mutated wild boar that looked like a tank. The whole body has almost caught up with Pei Jun's pickup truck. The whole body is covered with hard mud armor, and the two huge fangs at the mouth are raised to the sky. Staring at Pei Jun in the car with scarlet eyes. Pei Jun originally saw a village here and was about to come over to ask for directions. Unexpectedly, he heard the roar of the earth as soon as he arrived at the entrance of the village. A huge beast rushed out from nearby and stood across his path. It was the mutated wild boar in front of me. After the revival of the myth and the catalysis of spiritual energy, the wild boar has moved closer to the pig demon. And seeing the blood stains on the wild boar's two sharp fangs and the remaining flesh and blood in its mouth, a cold light flashed in Pei Jun's eyes. Apparently, this wild boar had killed a lot of people. Roar. A low roar came from the wild boar's throat, and its scarlet eyes were fixed on the roaring pickup truck in front of him, as well as Pei Jun on the pickup truck. He stepped suddenly and rushed towards the pickup truck. The huge body was like a tank, and its two sharp fangs were like two sharp swords as it rushed towards the pickup truck. This wild boar wanted to overturn the pickup truck and devour Mr. Pei in the car. Having tasted the delicious taste of flesh and blood, it had already fallen in love with this kind of food. Thanks for watching, subscribe and support my channel.